Hello Internet, and welcome to Tabitha's Tiny Realms, the show where I take a boring, unpainted mini, and through the power of movie magic, turn it into something completely different. In today's episode, we are painting the Bloodwrack Medusae, a cursed creature from the Warhammer universe whose minds and bodies were warped by the vanity of the elven goddess Authority. These once incredibly beautiful sorceresses are now shadows of their former selves, bent to serve the will of the hag sorceress Morathi. As always, in true slapchop fashion, we will begin painting this poor deformed sorceress with a heavy dry brush of ash gray, creating the base of our contrast. Now that our underlining gray is done, we will continue with another dry brush of matte white. Normally, this is something I would apply very lightly and sparingly. However, since the model has a lot of exposed skin, we're going to apply it more heavily on those areas in order to make that skin tone pop. Speaking of skin tone, it's time to attempt at applying our peachy flesh to the Medusa's skin. This is a spot I was really concerned about, and if you've watched my previous video, you will know I've struggled with lighter colors in the past. The heavier dry brush today was essentially a test for me, and I'm quite glad that the color is exactly what I wanted it to be. With this terrifying step out of the way, we will apply some hoplite gold to the armor pieces of the mini, including her breastplate and gauntlet. I feel that no matter how dark the Druchii tend to be, in the Warhammer universe, everything has a flare of gold. Now, if this is the first time you're hearing the words Druchii, Morathi, and Authority, and you feel like learning more about Warhammer lore, I've taken the liberty of posting a link with more information down in the doobly-doo. With that out of the way, we will apply a small amount of broadsword silver to our weapon, giving it that nice little metallic glint. Next, we'll be painting the shaft of the spear, and because I wanted it to feel slightly regal, I'm going to be using some dusk red. It's going to make it look like a pole of rich treated redwood. Moving on, we'll be going on to the largest surface of the model and painting the snake-like body of our dreadful monster in some tidal wave blue. Now these are the colors I love applying, since they're the ones that look so great with the slapchop method. It's just so easy to apply some contrast with the speed paints. Like without these paints, I would normally be applying other coats of lighter and darker colored paints. With a single coat of this magical blue goo, we have ourselves a really nice gradient. As I'm continuing to generously apply our blue paint on the Medusa, I'd like to take a moment to thank you for watching my video, and that if you like watching me paint miniatures and you're just as much of a geek as I am, perhaps consider subscribing to my channel and sharing it around with your friends. I'm also considering painting custom 3D printed minis to represent characters from the various tabletop RPG campaigns that I'm a part of. And if that's something you find cool, and perhaps you'd like me to do the same for you, you could give me a shout out down in the comments. For my next trick, we're going to paint the hair of our creature in some orc skin green. And by hair, of course, I mean the variety of dangerous venomous snakes that cover our ex-beauty's head. Now that our Medusa is no longer gray and dull, it's time to add some detail work. And in this case, I am bringing the blood to the Bloodwrack Medusae and covering all those slimy looking bits with a coat of slaughter red. Now, this was such a fun moment, since at first I thought I'd have to be really careful and as detailed as possible, but considering this represents a large amount of gore that was left from a previous battle, I figured being dirty was just as fine. And you most likely can tell as I've quickly went from painting those little white bits to just basically covering the blue with some red as well. But a little bit of slaughter is not enough for me. It's time to add some murder scene purple to the mix and make some of those patches darker, giving volume to our blood. I mean, this is a terrifying monster. I can't limit myself to just a little bit of blood effect. We need volume. And finally, in order to add a bit of reflectiveness and some lighter colors in our blood, I decided to add some glistening blood effect paint to the mix as well. Now, you can't see this, but when I started applying it, it looked really pink on the blood, so I decided to be really light with this coat. Next, I wanted to apply some Carmine Dragon to the fleshy bits of our mini, as she does have an exposed nipple right there. I also figured having blood red eyes could be cool, and also decided that a messed up looking lipstick would look nice on a vain sorceress who's lost her mind. And finally, we get to my signature work, the paint I never leave home without, the wash that makes my mini looks like it tumbled with 30 pounds of dirt, my dark tone. Applying this everywhere, I realized that just maybe I could have applied a flesh wash over her skin instead, but despite that, I still like the look of blackened dirt on her, like leftover ash from a field of battle. Admittedly, this step is always just a little bit nerve-wracking, because while it's not dry, the paint sometimes looks like it's messing up everything. But it's only because I've used it so many times that I know that once it dries, the results will speak for themselves. And if you continue to the end, I think you'll notice that they do. And there we have it, the results of my hard work. Once again, I am impressed by how quickly I can finish a mini with speed paints, and I'm really happy with the results. And if you want to see the whole process to notice that doing this mini basically took me an hour to make, you can go watch my Watch Me Paint series, which I'll link down in the doobly-doo. With that, I will wish you a good rest of your day.